This week's episode is brought to you by Blue Harvest Vintage. Are you a collector? Blue Harvest love to help you find that missing piece you need to complete your collection. They have extensive stock of vintage Star Wars vehicles and mint-on-card action figures, as well as new The Force Awakens and Black Series items. Blue Harvest have Funko Pops, Lego, Dinky, Corgi, Matchbox and more. Everything a collector could possibly need. If they don't stock it, then let them know, and their knowledgeable staff will be only too pleased to help. Reach out to Blue Harvest on Twitter at Blue Harvest UK, Facebook, Blue Harvest Vintage Collectibles, or email at blueharvesttoys@gmail.com.
This is Talk Star Wars, the official podcast of talkstarwars.co.uk. Hello everyone, welcome back to Talk Star Wars. I'm Mark.
I'm Stephen.
I'm Rob.
Welcome back, Steve.
I'm back.
He's back. He's back.
Hello, darling.
To welcome him
Hello,
back, we've
sweet
just hazed him pretty badly with the James Cameron tweet.
Yeah, you buggers.
It was worth the extra miles.
The joke will be on you when he invites me over to be in Avatar 2.
That's true.
A cameo.
Right,
a cameo that he'll see my genius and then say, you know what, you're coming back for 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, mate, because you are awesome.
There's 7. I thought there were 6.
No, there's 4, but I've just chucked another 3 on.
Oh, okay. You just think they're going to be that popular that you just...
Well, when they see me, they'll go,
Well, if you're in it,
we can get 3 more out of this guy.
of course.
Awesome.
That's the only reasonable way to go.
And then,
Steve from
once I
Talk
die
Star
at the
Wars is
end-
on it. Green light.
Once I die at the end, right, they will say,
Spoilers?
that's not enough.
Yeah,
We're going
come
to
on,
bring
Steve.
you back. No, it's fine, because
Oh, okay.
I will be Awa
Oh, I see.
right at the end.
I don't think they like to be called that anymore, Steve.
What?
They
Awa?
treat people with specific requirements.
Is there an acronym in there?
AWA is a negative phrase, and they don't like it. They'll thank you to move on. So I don't know where I'm going with that. Well, it's good to have you back, mate. It's a shame we don't have Paul, and Paul's not going to be around for a couple of weeks. He's got a bit on. He's got a holiday as well, I think. So he'll be back with us after Celebration, I think. But in the meantime, you got the 3, well, almost originals, because we go way back to single digits, don't we?
We do. We certainly do.
Okay, before we start, let's get to a couple of thank yous. So we need to thank Paul Guinan for liking our Facebook page, and for Steve Simon for subscribing to the YouTube channel this week. Thank you guys, and welcome to Talk Star Wars.
Welcome.
And for being on The Next Generation.
Yes, and Guinan, yeah, well done. That's a deep cut for Star Wars fans.
That's nicely done.
Yeah. There is not a lot going on at the moment. It is so painfully quiet out there. No reviews
Right,
this
stay
week.
listening. Carry on listening, please.
Don't turn it off.
Sell
Still
your
great.
wares, Mark.
It's still great.
I was actually
still
talking.
great.
I was actually talking about the fandom in general, not us.
We are still the man.
Fandom's very, very quiet, but we are still where you need. I don't care. I'm checking out. I'll see you all next week.
I'm drunk.
Yeah, right. We don't have any reviews this week, but don't forget you can leave us a 5-star review in iTunes and get a Ron Burgundy policy guarantee from us. So whatever you write in your 5-star review, we will read verbatim as long as it's clean. So if you want to promote something, stick it in there. I was so Steve,
Cool.
you really have changed while we've been off air.
Yeah.
I've really changed.
Yeah,
you
because
were
I
on,
just
you were
said,
on time.
I said stick it in there, and you did nothing.
Oh, right. I thought you meant
You
because
told
he
me
was
to
on
be
time.
clean.
This
He was on
invasion
time.
of the
This
body
sounds
snatchers.
amazing. And
Yeah.
he was prepared.
What an unusual
You
week.
said
this
be
has been.
clean.
I
I'm
did.
being clean.
I did. Sorry, I should not tempt
That's
you.
good. You're doing very well.
Yeah,
Right.
no, I will. Look, I'm slow on the uptake with witty euphemisms and double entendre.
And
I
fake
will
tweets.
I will try much harder to stick them in at the appropriate slot.
There you go. That's a hat trick. I'm going to have to hit that with a disgusted Sulu.
Oh, you need a disgusted one.
Please.
No.
All right. Listener com. So you can send us your questions and comments via Twitter and Facebook, or you can email us or send a voicemail to talkstarwarsinfo@gmail.com. We've got, before we started recording, we got something come in via email, which isn't in the show notes, so I'm going to throw this one out there now, chaps. So this is from Dan Solo. Hi, Mark and the gang at Talk Star Wars. I'm Dan Solo at Star Wars Sucker on Twitter. And my question is quite simply, what would your plot be for an Obi-Wan Kenobi film? Perhaps there's some trouble on Alderaan and he has to meet up with Bail Organa, and maybe we get to see a young Luke and Leia. What would you like to see? Thanks. Have a great show, Dan Silo. So before we came on tonight, Star Wars News Network had stuck something out. Dave Donovan sent it to me. And part of their article was that we're probably going to hear an announcement very soon, maybe even at Celebration, of an Obi-Wan Kenobi film starring Ewan McGregor, which I think is pretty exciting. Seeing as
I hope you're wearing your tenor ladies when they say that.
Yeah, I'll have to double bag that day, I think, because it's going to be a big moment for me if I finally get my Obi-Wan movie. So obviously Dan's based his question on that. What would we like, or what do you think we would see in an Obi-Wan film, and what would you like to see? They don't have to be the same thing. Steve, let's start with you, mate, seeing as you've been away for such a long time.
Yes. What time period wise? I mean, I think how far after Return of the Jedi?
Well, that is no.
Sorry, how far before A New Hope? Sorry, I was thinking of the ghost thing. I don't think it would be immediately before A New Hope because he's kind of stuck on Tatooine, isn't he? And it's not exactly exciting. I need it to be dark.
Yeah.
Because I don't want any levity, really. I want something gritty, a bit like... I think we've had our teeth sunk into Rogue One now, and we've seen what the dark side of the sun looks like.
Yeah,
it's better.
It really works as well, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to see Obi-Wan. I mean, he already was a master Jedi at the end of 3, so is there any room for development, learning new skills? It would be nice if he went and saw Yoda.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
I don't think he'd leave Tatooine, but there was a little snippet in that Ahsoka novel where he was communing with Qui-Gon through the Force, where he learns to use the Force in that way. So there's a bit of that they could throw in there, a bit of mysticism, I guess.
Wouldn't it be pretty boring though if he didn't leave Tatooine at all? Because it's from visually, it's orange.
If it's a 90-minute art piece of Ewan McGregor just sitting in a hut like reading a book, Obi-Wan Obi-Wan reads a Star Wars story. It's that would be pretty boring. But I think that they might do something local. Kind of like, we've been saying this for a while, like a little Western set on Tatooine, that it doesn't have to go off planet. The trouble can come to him.
What you mean, trouble as in people seeking him out as one of the Jedi?
It could be that, yeah, because we haven't seen the Jedi Purge yet, so that could be something that's very interesting to see on screen. And if it does come that far, perhaps bounty hunters, that would be very interesting.
That might be cool if he, in a kind of Magnificent Seven kind of feeling movie where it's one, a few people against a horde of, and the odds are against them, redemption type thing. That might be good. Yeah,
but you've just led straight into my suggestion, or my design would be build something around that kind of Magnificent Seven type theme where a community need to call on Obi-Wan to help for some reason, and just keep it small and simple and personal, and tell a small personal drama where this guy needs to solve a problem, but he needs to do it without revealing who he really is, because that way trouble lies. What about you, Rob? What would you like to see, and what do you think we're going to see?
I think what I like and what we'll get is pretty much the same thing. It's going to be him kind of trying to learn skills that he's been made aware of in at the end of Revenge of the Sith. But I think he's going to probably be disturbed. I kind of like to see them go down the similar route to the Kenobi Legends book.
Yeah.
Which was just kind of it was a single self-contained story set on Tatooine. He didn't leave, but he was traveling around. And there was a tiny bit of kind of the Skywalker, what's the word? There was a bit of a Skywalker sort of mention here and there, but it wasn't the focus of the story. The focus of the story was, him sort of solving this problem.
Yeah.
I forget, it's been a while since I read it, so I forget what exactly the problem was.
I've got the audio book, I think. I started the audio book. I need to get back into that, I think.
It's pretty good, I think. I remember enjoying it.
Steve, you may not be aware because you're not as plugged into it as we are, but the animated series has just featured Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's about 2 years before A New Hope. They've just been to Tatooine, and he was tracked down by Darth Maul, or the artist formerly known as Darth Maul, currently known as Maul. Well, currently known as Dead.
So they will bring
Maul.
him back then.
Kenobi, yeah. Well,
no, Darth Maul.
Maul. No, he's finally gone now. Spoilers. He's finally he came back obviously after episode 1, and he's been through all the animated series. But But Ben Kenobi, Desert Dwelling Ben Kenobi, just put him down in the TV show,
right.
And it was really good.
Yeah.
So why could they? That's all canon. So could they do that?
Well, I don't know if they'd want to do that on the big screen, because Maul, there's a certain niche of the audience that accept that Maul was back, and now to try and bring that to the mainstream, I think it was going to be pretty tricky.
And also people go, oh, how convenient.
Yeah, it will seem like a contrivance for the mainstream audience. People like yourself and Paul who don't keep an eye on this side of the Star Wars machine. It's just going to be too confusing. So I don't think they'll do that. But it does show, I think, just like sticking a finger in the air and watching what happened to fandom after the episode Twin Sons, the one we're referring to, aired. There's definitely a hunger out there for the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi. He seems to have been the highlight of season 3 of Rebels, apart from Thrawn, possibly. But
you need to say binary
sons,
I'd say Thrawn not twin sons.
Yeah. No. The episode's called Twin Sons.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Why do they not call it binary sons? I mean, everyone knows.
I think it's a reference to Obi-Wan and Maul.
Oh, twins
being sort of their fates being twinned as well.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool.
Yes. Okay. Right. Well, any one of those ideas we've just kicked around would be pretty good, I think.
I think it's going to be cool. It will be cool. To be gritty. It will, and it would be. You can already. They're never going to play around with something like that. It would be gritty, and it would be cool. And would you see a young Luke in it? That would be cool.
Well, young Luke made a little cameo at the end of this episode of.
Yeah, I mean that's a really, really light one.
Really light, and possibly a little bit inaccurate as well, because it did come across as being very, very young. The little figure that they had animated.
Yeah.
Came across to me being very, very young for a character that was maybe 2 years away. And his twin sister's already been in the season before of Rebels.
Yeah, true.
And she looked like a young woman. So I don't know. But that's just my interpretation of the way
he was quite far away, though. So there could be an element of that to it.
But it would, to me, that would be almost a prerequisite for an Obi-Wan movie, because that would be the thing that he does. When he's not out there solving problems, he would be visiting the homestead and being chased off by Owen.
True,
wouldn't he? That's the thing that they would do, and they could bring back. Who's it? Joel Edgerton or Edgerton? I can't remember the chap's name.
Joel Edgerton. Yeah,
they could bring him back.
That's true,
because he would have aged appropriately now to be. Depending on where they set it, he would look like an older Uncle. Uncle Owen. So I'd be keen to see them brought back, and the lady that played Beru, whose name escapes me at the moment.
Yeah, I can't think.
Bonnie Peace or Pies, I think. She's lovely. She's a musician. Anyway, that's a sidetrack. Okay. Yeah, so there you go, Dan. There's a few ideas from us. But seeing young Luke and seeing the Lars homestead is a definite must for me, I think. All right, let's move on in listener com. So we got a question from our friend Ian Jolliffe this week. Steve, would you like to take that?
Sure. Okay. Hi, Talk Star Wars. A quick question for you. I was thinking earlier about Rey's Force vision in The Force Awakens. People generally assume that the scene with the Knights of Ren in the rain shower, the slaughter of Luke's Jedi Academy, I think they're missing, shows the slaughter of Luke's Jedi Academy. However, could it actually be a future scene that will appear in Episode 8 and Ren kills one of the knights who is about to kill Rey because he still wants to train her? Any thoughts? Keep up the good work, Ian Jolliffe. That's an interesting question, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Is Rey's Force vision a vision of the future or past events?
That's what I said.
You did.
Way back when. This is when I was writing into Talk Star Wars. This was before I even joined. I wrote, that was one of the things I asked. Do you guys think it was a flash forward or a flash back?
My biggest concern with it. Well, my biggest concern with it is if it is a flash forward, it wasn't intended at the time they actually see. They're not they are clever. And I don't want to start a whole war thing here, but I don't think they were clever. They would be clever enough to have thought of that in episode 7, or maybe they were.
No,
but it would be contrived, wouldn't it? Now,
yeah, I think you are right, Steve. It wasn't planned as a flash forward at the start. It was planned to be something different. And I can't remember the specifics of it, but that scene was reworked because the guy that gets run through with the lightsaber is supposed to be something else in the original version. It's not really addressed what he is. I think he's just referred to as a warrior, but because it fueled a lot of theories for me about who Rey might be, that this guy might have been one of the Knights of Ren that was going to kill Rey, and Kylo shut that down because he wanted to take Rey for himself. So the guy that got killed was a Knight of Ren. That was one of my theories. But I think he's like referred to as like a warrior or a tribesman or something. And we're not really sure how that all clicks together because they did kind of change it. And there is, I heard Jason at Making Star Wars talking about this recently. And he said that if you can see the uncropped version of that scene without the rain, you can see Kylo is holding Luke's lightsaber.
Okay.
So that's what he went after when he went to the school. But because they changed that scene and restructured it, they cropped that lightsaber out so you never actually see it. So they're free now to move in a different direction if they want to.
Why would they have made it with him holding the lightsaber if it happened in real life? Because it never happened that way because he never had the lightsaber. He
had the lightsaber originally, and there is a shot of him holding the lightsaber. But for the final film, they cropped the shot so you can't see it. So
But, I mean, from a storyline perspective, how did he have the lightsaber? I'm guessing Luke got it back off him.
Yeah, well, we don't know. See, these are the things that will get changed in post, don't they? And that would have led the lightsaber going to Maz, and then Maz taking it to Leia, and we know all that stuff was abandoned. You know, there's as many. Probably not as many.
Yeah, because the original hand shot was Maz and Leia.
Was Maz and Leia, yeah. So we see, people were criticising Rogue One for what they did with the reshoots and the restructuring and all the stuff that was left on the cutting room floor, but The Force Awakens did it way before. Rob, what's your take on this?
Every film does it, isn't it?
Oh yeah, lots of films do it. Rob, because you brought this up early on in your career with us.
Yes.
Let's wrap up with your thoughts on this. What are the chances of this being? Do you still think it could be a future event?
So when we watched the audio commentary for Force Awakens, I think somebody pointed out to me in the middle of the shot where it was that people were, where they got the idea of it being a flashback from, and after watching that, I kind of went along with it.
Yeah, I think it's because there were the bodies on the ground and Rey's presence. It was almost as if, at the time we were thinking that she may have been present at that event. But I think it's almost definite now that the memory's coming from the lightsaber, from the crystal.
Yeah.
And not so much Rey's memory of having been there. She's witnessing events through the Force, thanks to that, the connection she's made with that crystal. So, I mean, considering Ian's question, it could go either way still. That it doesn't necessarily have to be a memory or a past event. It could be a potential future event because we know that it's always in motion. But I think to my mind, the most satisfying read on it is that it is the past and it is the moment that he destroyed the score, and we hear that from Han, and it's kind of alluded to through Han and Leia's conversation in the movie that that's when Kylo went off the deep end, or Ben went off the deep end and became Kylo Ren and destroyed what Luke had built.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to accept that at face value now that it's from the past. And if the rumours we've heard about scenes on Arc 2 involving Luke and Rey, the Knights of Ren might not go too far into the future of this story.
Possibly not.
So
which kind of be a bit of a shame, wouldn't it? if they sort of they introduce in a really brief shot in Episode 7, and then we see them snuff it in Episode 8.
You know what that will give them?
I'll be a bit miffed.
It will give them Boba Fett standards of legendary status, wouldn't it? They'd become this thing. But then, having said that, George tried that with Aura Singh in episode 1, and that didn't quite pan out. You get so much mileage out of these elusive, these enigmatic characters.
Yeah.
But I'm not. At the moment, I think the Knights of Ren have been used really well. I don't think they're going to make it much further than 8, though, and probably because narratively they've outused within the narrative of the film. Rather, they've lived their purpose, perhaps.
Yeah,
and the game's on now. Luke's back in play, so maybe they don't need them anymore.
Maybe,
but we shall see. But I'm willing. If I had to put my name against one thing here, I'm willing to say that is a past event that we're seeing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it would complicate things too much.
It would limit their options, certainly.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, right. We're at the 30-minute mark, so we'll take a quick break because we're going to be. Thank you, Ian, and thank you, Dan, for your questions before we move on.
Yes.
Let's jump to our break, and then when we come back, we've got Connor's Corner, which looks to be quite a large loaded one this week. So we will be right back. There he is. If you'd like to support what we do here at Talk Star Wars, you can do so by becoming a TSW sponsor. For as little as £1 per month given securely via PayPal, you can help us keep the lights on here at TSW. When you become a TSW sponsor, we will elevate you to VIP status. As a TSW VIP, you'll get access to an exclusive stream that provides you with fun downloads like HD wallpapers for your desktop, tablet and mobile device, ringtones and text alerts courtesy of our very own audio Jedi at Rob Wade Vision. You'll also receive a monthly newsletter with news about what's going on here at Talk Star Wars, and you'll get a priority release of the new Star Wars audio commentary series called TSW Feature Comms. All this for as little as £1 per month. Head to talkstarwars.co.uk/support and become a TSW sponsor today, and the Force will be with you always.
And we're back. So as you've just heard, you can go to talkstarwars.co.uk/support and find out more about the TSW VIP program, which gives you access to all sorts of cool stuff first. One of the first people to take up that mantle was Connor. And as is customary, after we hear from the VIP program spot, we are taken to Connor's Corner featuring Leo. So Connor writes thusly. Gentlemen, I hope you've had a good week and are in good health. First off, let me reply to your question. On last week's show, Leo and I saw ourselves as gunner and pilot in the airspeeder in the Battle of Hoth.
Awesome, good call.
Just don't ask who was flying and who was shooting. We're still arguing about that one. Nice. Anyway, this week, Leo and I watched the last 45 minutes of Return of the Jedi as it was on Sky, and it would have been rude just to skip past it without stopping in to say hello. And as usual, Leo and I got talking about that ending with the ghosts. He, Leo, went on to ask, I take it Leia can't see them then? And that got us onto that contentious subject of why is it young Anakin and not old Anakin? There are many answers to this, I know, and I'm sure you fine gentlemen have an opinion on this matter. It's been talked about in another show, but by all means feel free to recap. The question I have is about the Force ghosts appearing in visual or audio form in the upcoming films or movies for your international listeners. Mr. Oz has been pressed lately on his recent visit to the Episode 8 set and has remained very tight-lipped on his involvement. You both discussed it on last week's Talk Star Wars Lightspeed show. Nice.
It was a short one. And
the possibility of an Obi-Wan ghost in future installments of Star Wars. So will Anakin commune with Luke? And if so, which form will he take, young or old? It does seem strange that it would be young Anakin as opposed to the older version. Maybe the communication will be with a disembodied voice, but whose voice? Surely it won't be James Earl Jones, as he was Vader and not Anakin. Might we see or hear a Hayden Christensen voice or vision? I, for one, would love to see or hear Hayden get another bite of the cherry just to see how a different director would have him play it. Or would Disney be ballsy enough to go with the older version? But I'm sure there is a clause in the contract of sale that says the 6 Lucasfilms characters can't be messed with. Anyway, I've taken up far too much airtime with my inane ramblings, and we'd love to hear your take on this. Your friends Connor and Leo, may the Force be with you. Right, I'm guessing this is going to be... Okay.
This is your spot.
This email was brought to you by Anchorhead Autos, the cheapest power converters in the Outer Rim. Use the discount code TOSHI for 10% off. T&Cs apply.
We take Republic credits.
Take Republic credits, yeah.
I feel it's necessary to point out that code will get you no discount from Talk Star Wars, and we do not accept Republic credits.
Indeed not.
Okay. Do you mind if I take this first? Because I have some stuff to say about this. Why is Anakin's ghost young Anakin in Return of the Jedi? We'll address that first. I think
make sure you don't retcon any of our previous.
Yeah, no.
Because I can't remember what I said.
People are on it now.
Ads is doing a little. He's doing a little watch on us, and he's holding us accountable. I think it makes a lot of sense that this young Anakin that we see as a Force ghost for a number of reasons. Mainly because that was the form where Anakin died, basically, and when Anakin gave himself over and became Darth Vader, that was it. That's when he lost his life, essentially, and became this monster. So, narratively speaking, it makes sense to me that it would be young Anakin because that's the ghost of Anakin, and everything from there forward was Darth Vader. Practically speaking, if you strip away the armor from Darth Vader and you had old Anakin, you would have a ghost with out in the arms and legs, which is going to be just a really weird visual.
That's
right?
a really good point. Yeah, I hadn't
so
thought of that.
It's not. You wouldn't have. Like, I'm pretty sure that all the metal wouldn't have a ghost form, even though I guess they're sort of they're.
I mean, he wasn't he? He was
their
standing
robes and
there
stuff.
originally with his arms and legs.
It was, but you can kind of see the thought process that George had when he decided to make the change. For those two reasons, you know, you've got the character where he was last really Anakin, the hero of the Republic, the Jedi Knight, and everything from that point forward was this monster. And then obviously you got the visual where if it is going to be an older version of Anakin, he'd be burnt to a crisp and wouldn't have any arms and legs, which is kind of a funky thing to try and think about.
Just step away from these teddy bears a second, Luke. I just want to show you the horribly mangled remains of your father.
You will never sleep again, sir.
Yeah.
Good luck to you. The other thing to address his other point is, could we see him in Last Jedi? Now, this has been considered already, and there's a bunch of production art for a version of Anakin's ghost that would morph backwards and forwards between.
That's right. Yeah.
Young Anakin, Hayden Anakin, and this monstrous thing that would include part of, if not all, the armor from Darth Vader. So it was definitely considered for The Force Awakens. I think this might be a big secret that's being kept about 8, that Hayden will be involved. And
wouldn't they put him in Rogue though? Why not? Why the ambiguousness of Rogue with him? With in the cryo tube, whatever it's called, not cryo tube, the
back to tank.
Back to tank.
Well, I guess if they revealed Hayden in that for that tiny little shot, most people would say, well, he's definitely in 8 then. Because if he's been used here, he might have been used whilst they were filming 8. It might have been a pickup, an insert shot for that moment in Rogue One, and not showing Hayden in that film still leaves it less than certain that he might be involved in 8.
It leaves it a bit ambiguous.
But if he was in Rogue One, I would be sitting in there saying, well, he was in Rogue One, he's definitely going to be in 8. And
if you're going to have an answer for everything, then it's pointless because you're right all the time, and you are.
Well,
fair enough.
I don't think it's about being right. I think it's about...
No, that's right. That is a really good point.
It makes sense, doesn't it? That's the thing. It kind of makes sense. And this is like a really fine line that they're walking with me right now. I think I would be enormously dissatisfied if we didn't get Anakin, because he'd done this huge... There was this huge feat for Anakin to come back and redeem himself, or his son help him redeem himself and saved his soul, and then he was reunited with his old friends, his former masters. And to have that end there and not revisit that story in any way now, I think would be a terrible shame. I would really love, and I want, and I know a number of people want Hayden to get another bite of the cherry. So that's my 2 pence. I'm going to let you two guys have the floor now to have your say. But that's my stance on it. So
yeah, mine's quite quick. I mean, Rob might have a bit more enlightened view than me, but I would like to see Anakin in 8. I actually quite like his character when I watched the film. I thought he was one of the more believable parts of the prequels. And I think it's a shame if the prequels are still set in stone and they're part of the saga, then don't hide, Aiden Christensen or his character away as if it's something to be ashamed of. Bring it out, and he would be good. Like, and I don't think they're going to use the old version because the gentleman is almost certainly passed on. I'm not sure he's
Sebastian Shaw did. Yes, he has gone. Unfortunately.
Yes. So there's all copyright issues there and CGI issues, whereas you could use Anakin, and he hasn't changed that much. Aiden Christensen hasn't changed that much since episode 3. So it kind of makes sense, and it would be great to see Vader talking to, his son, wouldn't it? And giving him advice like Ben did on that horrible wet planet with the nasty things you don't go swimming.
Dagobah.
Thank you. That place, which is where I think Luke's going to end up, by the way, after the end of all this. But that's another story. I was gardening the other day and it popped in there. So yeah, I think I would love to see that personally. I think that's pretty much it. I don't think I'm not sure about James Earl Jones. Because that would be lip synced in, wouldn't it? And that would be weird. And
that would be kind of odd.
And also, that's not his voice. That's the suit's voice, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's nothing to worry about, really. But I think it's. I think you've got to have it there. It will not only lend weight to the whole film, but also tie it in with the middle saga nicely, which is sadly lacking, I think, because the original characters, as I've mentioned, in my opinion, loads of times before, were, crowbarred in there for episode 7 as like, oh yeah, I'll have this. That will appease all the oldies of the group. And I think it would be nice to have this really nice link to the middle saga, the original saga.
Yeah, totally agree. Rob?
So it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because you've come in and just laid down this enormous bomb of logic. And it's like, what do you think, Rob? And I'm just kind of going to go, yeah, what you said.
Moving on then. Thanks for your email, Connor.
Yeah, I do think, I think you're absolutely right. I think the young Anakin makes sense in that respect. I think also, let's be fair, Luke has no real major dealing with Vader. And what he does see is kind of a broken man who's just inside this sort of robot suit. So maybe that's the only thing that's summoned up that's completely distinct from that image, because that's the last time before he goes in the armor.
Yes,
it's the sort of last look he has. As to whether we see him in I'm with you. I'd really like to see the sort of morphing ghost that changes. Here's a thought. I was thinking about this while you were describing it. What about a scene where they're walking, they're kind of, we've got the impression that Luke and Kylo Ren are going to be sort of competing for Rey's interest in terms of hearing about the Force, as it were.
Yeah.
What about as they're walking around, let's say a Hut on Arc 2, as they're walking around, the image of Vader is changing depending on who's kind of the focus of the shot. So if it's, Kylo telling his story, he's kind of describing, Vader's kind of a things, and it's morphing into Vader because, the person who's powerful enough to see, because I reckon they're probably both powerful enough to see Force ghosts, which is interesting as to why he's not seeing Vader visibly on screen. But
I think Kylo?
Yeah, I think they're both powerful enough to be able to see it. Now,
yeah, but don't you have to learn how to commune with
only
Force ghosts?
To be able to commune,
Qui-Gon,
not to be able to see or hear, because
or how to come back. How to come back?
Come back.
Of course, yeah, no, totally, because Luke didn't know how to do it. No, you're right. Sorry, Rob, I totally agree.
No, it's good.
I did it from the other end.
Oh my! Right.
Sorry.
So I wonder if maybe that's the way they'd approach that scene. Is have them kind of toing and froing, describing the sort of, the achievements of Anakin Skywalker. And then one is sort of looking at it from the point of view of he did these great things while he was Darth Vader. And one's looking at it from the point of view of redemption and from this sort of, the things he did during the Clone Wars. And maybe as they're sort of walking around, maybe the ghost of Anakin's kind of in the room and maybe he changes depending on who's talking and who's addressing him and stuff.
Yeah, I like that idea. And I'll take that idea and I'll raise you.
Right.
Because the scene where Kylo's in what they called the padded room, the set they referred to as the padded room in Force Awakens, with the Darth Vader's melted helmet on that little plinth.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Steve. We've missed you. He says, show me again the power of the dark side, right? He's feeling the pull of the light. And he's talking to him as if he's already got guidance, or he's already got something from Vader beyond death. And I wonder if what Kylo thinks he's seeing as is Vader is actually Snoke showing him visions and passing it off
Emperor.
as Vader.
Cannot bad people come back as Force ghosts?
Well,
No.
Not as Force ghosts, but I have a theory about what Snoke is, Steve. It's on the site. We covered it a couple of weeks ago in your absence. Okay. But I have a theory that Snoke may be a dark side user that's managed to survive death, but in a physical form rather than
a Force ghost.
In being able to become this non-corporeal version of the Jedi identity.
So maybe he needs a new vessel.
Yes.
So he's trying to choose the best one.
So the body we see Snoke with in The Force Awakens isn't actually Snoke. It's a body that he possesses in order to retain corporeal form. And I wonder if he's sort of grooming Kylo to become his next vessel. And that might have been... So my theory is that might have been Palpatine's design from the start. Because he got a little bit cavalier with his body towards the end there, didn't he? He allowed Mace Windu to mess it up. I wonder whether his thing was always have an apprentice so that you could
that always confused me, Mark. Can I just interject there?
Yeah, please do.
That always confused me. Like, did he allow Mace Windu to mess up his face, or did it simply reveal who he always was?
Yeah, but that's a really valid question. And that would be something.
A great question.
That would be something very interesting to see them explore. That is that what
Steve,
you really
Steve,
look like?
you are straight fire tonight. You really.
Yeah, you're
back,
on it.
Back with a bang.
Yeah, that is a really interesting question, and I would be intrigued to see them pursue it. I don't think
because it certainly comes across that way when you watch it. It looks like, hang on, that's not. It didn't look like that's what would happen when lightning or electricity burnt your face. So it looked like it was a reveal.
I have a little insight for that. So the novelization is a little bit more explicit about what's happening in that scene. So it is talking about muscles being, what's it called? Muscles being sort of destroyed. So his sort of face muscles are sagging and things like that, and certain things are burning away. But it also says after he's finished and dispatched Windu that he's been kind of revealed.
Right.
Yeah. Because his eyes are then. Dark side eyes.
He can completely let himself go. He's no longer trying to hide who he is, right?
Yeah.
It's Mace Windu's fault that the whole thing happened anyway. If he'd listened to Anakin, who wanted to arrest him, well, he would have killed them both, wouldn't he? But that's another story.
Yeah.
Not Mace Windu. The Emperor would have killed them both.
Yeah.
But at least he would have both. They would have died on the right side. I guess. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, really good.
I had another thing,
really
but
good
I can't
question.
remember what it was. You were halfway through when I batted in, Mark. You were halfway through.
Yeah, no, that was it. That was just sort of a quickly touching on what my new Snake theory is that the body isn't necessarily the character, but what's inhabiting that body is Snoke, and it may well turn out that is Plagueis, and Pablo was true in saying no, Snoke's a new thing. Well, it is. It's a new form, but there could have been Plagueis who knew how to survive death. This could have been one of the vessels that he's used over the years to move towards the final goal, which is to get to a point where he has a new dark side user to inhabit. But I don't know where they'll go with that. But
yeah,
wouldn't it be fantastic to see? Because one thing we've never had, and neither has Luke or Vader at the end of Return of the Jedi. They don't know each other, do they? They have no idea of who the other one is, only of what they was as Darth Vader and that there's good in him. Wouldn't it be lovely to see Luke and Vader chatting obviously there's history. You won't see it all, but and as if they really know each other and they've learned a lot about each other and they're father and son again.
Well, that would be. I tell you what, Steve. That would be. Rob's right. You are on fire tonight. That would be a great thing if they can lift the lid off of that in a film. Then it can trickle down into all other sorts of media, can't it? So if you say that Luke has literally spent his time on Arctu or wherever he's been, training with his father and learning about his father, learning about Padme, learning about all the adventures that they had back then, probably not story time, like, come sit on my knee and I'll tell you some stuff about Nemoidians. No, not interested. But it would be good to see that explored in comic books or novels, audio books. It would be great to see that sort of stuff brought out through those, because they're better suited to that sort of platform, I guess, where you can see Anakin explaining to Luke what happened.
Yeah.
You could fill him in. I've just watched the Mortis trilogy because I picked that up last week. I have a little adventure I'll tell you all about at some point, which involves Amazon and me getting a bunch of free video.
Okay. Jolly good.
Yeah. The Mortis trilogy I picked up is absolutely stunning with what it gives away.
Yeah.
Or with what it alludes to. It can be read, I think, in a number of ways. And if you read it the way I did after my initial viewing, is that it's Anakin having a vision of everything that's coming.
Right.
And there's so many nods to everything.
So remind me, sorry to interrupt, the Mortis trilogy is the one about the son and the daughter
That's
and the father, right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
So you got the father, and then you've got twins, a boy and a girl. And then they represent the light side and the dark side, and the father trying to keep them in balance.
Yeah.
And keep the dark side user from getting out of control and becoming this monster. And it's kind of just sort of nodding towards the fact that Anakin's future is bleak, to say the very least. And he gets a good look at what's coming. He sees himself as Vader. He communes with Qui-Gon. There's a lot there to unpack, and I think it would survive another viewing.
And I think following, what the last thing we were speaking about, I've just been thinking about something else now. I wonder if there's any mileage in, obviously, like say we go with Luke's been convening with his father and learning loads more, and they've been learning together. Could that be possibly why Kylo left, because he got jealous, and then he couldn't do that because obviously he's not going to be able to commune with Vader if he's turning bad, and that's why he had to have the nearest thing, which is a physical representation of Vader being the helmet. Like,
who are you? And what have you done?
What have you done with Steve? That's really good. It's a really good point.
I was about to say dumpster fire, but that's the wrong way of putting it.
He's the exact opposite of a dumpster fire.
You are a petrol fire. You just do not stop.
That's a really good point, actually, Stephen. Thematically, it's absolutely spot on, because
that's great.
If you look at the Sith and the Jedi in giant broad strokes, what we've just been discussing is the Jedi are willing to cast off physical form and become one with the Force, and that's how they transcend and become these non-corporeal beings. And the Sith are very much against the loss of physical form, the loss of their life. They want to prolong their physical dominion as long as possible. So for Kylo, he might not, or Ben Solo might not have been able to accept that, if you can't connect with Anakin, the closest thing is this, like you said, it's the tchotchkes, it's the remnants, it's these little bits of burnt up armor and the cloak and the lightsaber crystal, or whatever it is that he's managed to scrape together. Vader's belongings. It's the physical thing, something tangible he can hold. He needs to see it and feel it in order to accept it as being real, where the Jedi accept everything on faith alone. And they don't need the proof. Like Obi-Wan took a leap on the Death Star when he was struck down by Vader. He didn't need to know that what was coming next. He just accepted it on faith and went with it. Kylo, I'd assume, being more of a dark side user, can't do that. He can't just accept anything. He wouldn't accept anything on face value. He needs to have the physical, tangible thing in his hands to be able to say, yes, this is it. This is real. And all the while, Snoke's in the background saying, yeah, like the stuff that brought down the Empire, or it was all weakness on Anakin's part. Vader was the strength. Anakin was the weak, the compromised.
Yeah.
Don't let that become your fate, you know? So he is like Luke and Ben Solo are a microcosm of those big, broad themes of the Sith being the physical and ignorant to faith, and the Jedi being faithful and willing to take leaps.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Wow, Connor, you got us... we went all over the map.
That was a whole page, that Connor question. We've never had a whole page.
He really does. He really does give it up for us, doesn't he?
Definitely giving us a big one there.
Okay, right. Let's. Are we done? Has everyone had something to say? I don't want to leave anything out.
Yeah, that's fine.
No.
Yeah, okay. Let's just get to our Twitter poll results. So this is we mentioned. I don't know if we mentioned it while we were recording, but this will be the last Twitter poll for a little while. I'm going to give it a rest because it's kind of gone off the boil, and I don't want people to get tired of it. And we'll come back to it when we've got something more provocative to discuss.
Yeah.
Like
there's no point in
a trailer.
There's no point in just doing it for the sake of doing it. It has to be, you know, something that people will actually have fun interacting with, rather than just do you like Star Wars? Yes,
Indeed.
no.
Yeah.
I think in Twitter generally people are polling left, right, and centre. There might be a saturation issue there.
There's a lot of it out there.
I'll make a point.
Let's do a poll and ask people what they want to do.
That's a good idea.
I make a point of like cutting down until I've got something specific to do.
Then,
you know,
it's been quite difficult to come up with Twitter poll questions because there's not been that much new stuff for people to sink their teeth into. Yeah. So we'll get to the other side of Celebration. We'll wait until the trailer's out, and then we might have some more exciting things to discuss. So
sounds good.
Right, last week's Twitter poll has ended, and the final results are in. So the poll we put out was following that line from Obi-Wan Kenobi in Twin Sons. We have one question this week: who is the chosen one? We got 54 votes, and this tweet went out to 904 people. So you see what I mean? It's just kind of like
it's a decent amount, but not like
not doing what it used to do.
Not setting the world on fire.
52% of the people that took the time to voted 52% in favour of Anakin Skywalker.
Okay,
which is kind of where we all landed. Steve, you were away, so you probably don't realise.
Yeah, I will have voted Anakin as well.
This all went off though. People, there was a line in the Twin Sons episode where Maul asked Obi-Wan what he was doing on Tatooine. Was he protecting something, or was he protecting someone? And then he asked Obi-Wan outright, "Are you protecting the chosen one?" And Obi-Wan said yes, alluding to the fact that Luke was the chosen one.
Oh.
So many people took that at face value and said, well, it's got to be. And you can see why, because it's stated quite clearly by a very cogent character on screen. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. He said, yes, Luke's the chosen one. So you can see why people went with it.
Well, yeah, but could the chosen one be a hereditary thing?
That's one of the possibilities we discussed. What we kind of came to, Steve, was that it was wishful thinking on Obi-Wan's part because he didn't think that Vader could be redeemed. So he assumed that if there was no chosen one, then the prophecy can never come true. So for him, that wasn't possible. It wasn't possible for Anakin to be the chosen one because he turned to the dark side. And for Obi-Wan, and for the Jedi, that was not part of the prophecy.
Yeah.
Well, then, with that in mind, that if we are looking at lineage, then Rey is Luke's daughter.
Why does that follow?
Well, if Anakin passed it to Luke, and then that chosen status is a hereditary sort of spiritual thing, where the main force occupant, then it would have to pass down to the next person in the chain, and there has to be a next person. Maybe it always
crystal.
Has.
By the crystal.
Yeah, the crystal chose Rey. I mean,
technically, the crystal also chose Anakin. So there's that.
Yeah, it didn't choose Luke.
It's true.
It was given to Luke.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff still up in the air, and it's not stuff. I don't think George left these things up in the air. I think that they're add-ons, not necessarily retcons, but they're augmentations to the story through the years. Of different storytellers are coming and they've laid in a new detail, and then unfortunately it reframes the stuff we already know, and it becomes quite confusing. So someone's going to need to clarify for us later on, and maybe the cleanest way to do it is to say, "Yep, Rey's Luke's daughter, and that's why the crystal called to her is because it's calling to the next person in the lineage." But really, Kylo's part of that lineage as well, isn't he? Through Leia. So yeah, the waters are still a little bit muddy there, but we've not seen much beyond that lightsaber to say that Rey is a Skywalker. But
I do think there's a hell of a lot of questions need answering from Episode 7, far more than any other film.
Well, brace yourself, mate. We might not get any answers until 9, and we may not even get them then.
Yeah, but I'm not even talking about big answers. I just think the whole, they didn't account very well for the time between Jedi and Force Awakens at all in 7. And not what's happened. You had Snoke. How did he get hold of Kylo? How was Kylo coerced? Was it a jealous thing with Luke? What happened with Luke? What happened with Han and Leia? I mean, there's so many things.
But these things were all present in the original trilogy, though. When we showed up in 77, and suddenly you've got, who's this Grand Moff Tarkin guy?
Been a very basic explanation of a few bits.
You don't see the Emperor until like a hologram.
Do they reference
in the next
the
movie.
Emperor in 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When do they say it? Remind me, because I know they're doing obviously 5. You see him
in the Death Star. Yeah, in the meeting room when they're all the Moffs and all the sort of admirals. And he's saying, the Emperor has decided to dissolve the Senate effective immediately and stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact line.
Yeah,
it was almost perfect, Rob.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, the Emperor has decided to dissolve the council, and
because when I was young, I always thought the Empire was a throw-in in Empire.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, they're making this character up now because obviously they're elaborating and evolving the story. But obviously it makes complete sense, and I remember it saying it in 4 now.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of a side note. You don't put any weight to it.
And it was pretty bold because it's a throwaway line, and really it's Palpatine consolidating his power completely. The charade's gone by this point. He's like, I'm not even going to pretend that there's any democracy now. Be gone, all of you. This is.
But also,
I'm doing my thing.
If 4 was a standalone film, why mention the Emperor at all? Like it was quite fortuitous that they actually put that line in at all because they didn't need to.
That was always. I think Lucas had always kind of imagined that there was an Emperor behind Vader. Vader was always meant to be the sort of main villain of the original film, but the Emperor was supposed to be a force in the galaxy. But I don't know whether he was planned to be as heavily involved later on at that stage. But like you say, it's nice. It's useful that he did that.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if it's that clear early on that he was a Sith Lord.
No, it's true. He might have just been a politician.
Yeah, it's only. Yeah. I mean, Empire Strikes Back. You start to get that idea that they're warring over who's going to snatch Luke first and outdo the other one. But early on, there's no indication of what it is, what the Sith are. We know that from the expanded materials in 77, we knew that it was Darth Vader, Lord of the Sith, but no one really knew what any of that meant.
No, it's true.
And so there was, you could be forgiven for getting to Return of the Jedi. I think they've got a lot of things to answer here, a lot of loose ends to knit together, but we accept it now as one big whole because we've been living with it for 4 decades and we know every angle of it. And so now with The Force Awakens, it's very uncomfortable for us to say, I don't know where this is going. I don't know how this bit clicks into this bit and how they complement each other. But at the end of episode 9, potentially we'll have a better understanding of it all. And it'll all start to mesh and work as one thing.
Do you want the exact quote from Tarkin?
Yeah, do it.
Sure.
The Imperial Senate will no longer be of any concern to us. I've just received word that the Emperor has dissolved the Council permanently. The last remnants of the old Republic have been swept away. There you go.
Perfect. Nicely done. I could almost imagine you in slippers as well as you were reading that.
In slippers in Whitstable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Right, naked otherwise.
Yeah, just slippers. Yeah, one slipper
just
hanging.
Oh, you know what? I've just realised while I'm
Yes.
being quite on the ball tonight.
Why?
I'm almost clothed. Maybe it was my nakedness that was stripping away my Star Wars.
I don't know how I feel about this.
That is a direct
I've got pajamas.
We've got to go back to the start and do this again now.
I don't know if
so I can get my kit off.
I don't know how I feel about this.
That's an hour and 3 minutes that we've got to do that again.
We've just had
I've got to retcon my nakedness.
It's just Steve.
Okay, so that's our last Twitter poll for at least a couple of weeks. We'll put something else. We'll pin something else to the top of the Twitter account. Make it work for us in another way. Okay. Shall we get into some... Oh, let's just go over the other results. So 39% of people said it was Luke who was the chosen one, and 9% said it was Rey. So I think most people read it the way it should be read, which is that it's...
I will be significantly put out if they retcon it to make it Rey. That would just be... They'll just feed that kind of, the Mary Sue criticism.
Yes, it will, won't it?
It's just like, now she's the chosen one as well. Okay, right, fair enough.
Yeah, that wouldn't do it any favors.
I shall be, and also not for nothing, but it will also be a disrespect of Lucas's established canon, which is not something they've been doing up until now. They've been very good at not doing that.
I don't think they'll do it, Rob. I really don't think they will.
I'd be very surprised if they did.
It's too cavalier, and I don't think Kathleen Kennedy would take that.
She's a smart cookie.
She's really switched on. She understands what makes fandom tick.
Exactly, she gets it.
Is there any way? Now this is putting something ridiculous out there. It's been spoken about by Palpatine. People have learned how not to avoid death and everlasting life, and you've mentioned it with Snoke and all these really weird out there theories. Is there any scope whatsoever for Anakin to come back and still be the chosen one and come back to life from a Force ghost?
I think it's unlikely. Obviously it's fantasy, so anything's possible, right? But I would consider it unlikely for sure. And I would also, I think we talk about it now. I don't think we'd enjoy it if we got it. I don't necessarily think it would go down well with fandom.
Depends how it was done, I guess. But you're dealing with far out theories at the moment, so why not have one that's
it's got my mind racing, mate. I think it's a very interesting proposition.
I have a thought on this, and it comes back to a point I've made a few times about something I don't want to see, and it's a comparison to the Potterverse and the Resurrection Stone. Brings back people's essence in ghost form, and it's obviously we've already got Force ghosts in Star Wars. If we go any further down that road, we're kind of ending up in that space, I think, or we run that risk.
If a Jedi can learn how to commune with the living and make that step, then why not? Could that not be what Snoke's done? Come back from that.
Yeah, well, that's what I think Snoke is.
Plane.
That's what I think Snoke is. I don't think Snoke ever went to the ethereal plane. I think he moved from one corporeal form to another, but moved within, almost like he's moving within the midichlorians. And this could be a way that they sort of wreck on the midichlorians and give them a little bit more substance. But if he's using that to move from body to body, but it's an enormous ordeal, and it's very difficult to find the perfect host because they have to be completely dark or whatever.
And also they're if they were to do that, it would be a bit like Dark Empire,
right?
From Legends, and that in that one, the Emperor's bodies, because the Emperor was
he has clones,
transferring his clones. Yeah, they would have his sort of essence.
Yeah.
And the bodies would degrade faster because he was so powerful in the dark.
Which could explain why Snoke looks the way he looks.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
The Force Awakens, because he's really ropey by the time we get to that film.
He is rather worse for wear. I'll say that. Yeah, I'll say that affirmatively.
But it could be what Steve's just said. I can't imagine that Anakin would it doesn't make sense to me that Anakin would have redeemed himself and become this ethereal force entity alongside his former masters and his friends, smiling at his son. It wouldn't make sense for him to then go, right, yeah, I'm done with the blue thing. How do I get back? I need to get back. Can I come back in another form? That doesn't make sense to me. But what I can imagine is Kylo trying to find a way to summon him back.
Yeah.
And if Kylo's trying to learn from Snoke, how can I bring him back? Can I pull him back from death into a body? That might be interesting motivation for Kylo Ren. We just lost Rob very briefly there, but we brought him back in. So, Rob, you were going to make a point about the possibility of... We were talking about Kylo trying to pull Vader back from death.
Yeah. So here's a thought, right? So in the Revenge of the Sith novel, they talk about how the reason the Sith can't do what the Jedi do and sort of talk with the previously deceased and blah, 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 is because they're too, we know they're too selfish. They think about themselves. They fear death because it's the loss of their power. Thus, they can't do it. Whereas the Jedi see death as just the next phase of life. Mm-hmm. So what about if that's the reason that Kylo appeals to Snoke, because he has the ability to commune, or could learn to have the ability to commune with Vader, who's now reformed and back on the side of light. What if that was the appeal?
Yeah.
And the reason he's let Kylo go for the sort of full dark, as it were, is because he didn't successfully commune with Vader. And so Snoke goes, right, well, it's a nice idea. Let's try something else.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be something. We need to spend some time with Snoke, don't we? We need to get an insight into what his agenda is.
He's the most interesting character to me out of all of it. I mean, I really like Rey because Daisy Ridley plays her very endearingly, but I want to know most about Snoke because he's fascinating to me.
The biggest mystery out there, isn't he?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, ready to cover a few Star Wars news pieces? Some interesting stuff in here. So let's start with Star Wars Celebration. Sam Witwer has been announced as being at the event this week, so that's pretty cool. Steve, Sam Witwer plays a number of characters throughout Star Wars. Yeah, at the moment in Rebels, he was playing Maul, but he's also played Emperor Palpatine.
Okay.
And we were talking about the Mortis arc earlier. He played the son in the Mortis arc. He's a fantastic actor, really nice guy, and an absolute authority on Star Wars. When you hear him talk about it, he has left no stone unturned. This guy, he's really, really good. So, be interesting to see him there. Hopefully, he'll have something to do with one of the stages, so we can actually hear him talk. I would imagine he'll feature in the Rebels thing on the Saturday.
Yeah, good chance that's possible, yeah.
There's also going to be some screenings at Celebration. So Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and Force Awakens all screen in one night.
Oh, right.
One after the other. So that'll be really interesting. Wow. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to stay awake for that because I'm quite old. But if I can get 25 minutes into Empire Strikes Back, I consider that a win.
Yeah, fair enough.
That'll be good.
It's surprising how easily it's done. I did a Mystery Science Theater 3000 marathon once, and I managed to stay up through 5 movies in a row overnight. So it can be, it's more doable than you think.
Well, I'm sure with the atmosphere. I'm sure. I've never seen it really, because the past couple of films I haven't even seen with audiences, but this would be the crowd to see these films with, I think.
Yeah.
But not if I'm very tired, because as you can see, the next point on the show notes is I will likely be queuing overnight to get into the Last Jedi and the 40th anniversary panels. The event, the location, Orange County Convention Center, is allowing a certain number of people to sleep overnight inside. So, Steve, do you remember when we went to Celebration Europe? There was a lot of talk on our way up that there was something like 6,000 people that were queuing overnight.
Yeah.
Well, that's the situation in Orlando, but it will probably happen there, and it didn't happen in London. Because
but that didn't stop any less people going. It was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, we wandered straight in, didn't we? I was telling somebody about this the other day. I think it was Rob Casters. When we got to when we got to the event every day, we just wandered straight up to the queue for the thing that we wanted to see, and wandered straight up and got the wristband, so we were automatically going to get in. And
I think we arrived early, but we weren't like half an hour early.
No. It was, the timing was just perfect. I mean, it was we were absolutely lucky because we're all novices. We had no idea what we were doing, and we didn't know how it worked. So we just got damn lucky, and I'm really pleased that we got to see what we saw, especially considering it's one of those was Carrie Fisher on stage.
That's all. I can imagine
exactly.
That'd be, nice
You've got a press pass, haven't you now?
Yeah, I got media pass for this.
Yeah, that doesn't give you anything extra, Steve. It just gives you access to the actual thing. You still have to queue up normally.
I still have to earn my seat.
Yeah.
So I will still be doing the queuing.
What benefits are there with a press pass or media pass?
Not paying for tickets.
Not paying for tickets. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You may get, like I said, I've been to one convention as a press pass, and they did give you a sort of little press area where you could go and use Wi-Fi, and you could sort of get your bits done in a sectioned off bit that was a little less.
If that is the case, that would be great. I haven't seen anything on the details about that yet, but then I do have to report to a special place to collect my passes, so I might be, there might be this velvet rope that they say come through here.
Yeah.
And then I'll look at the rest of the Commonwealthers and say, screw you guys, later.
And they give you a gold bikini.
Off I go.
Yeah, that's it.
Jabbers through there.
I can't imagine leaving the people that I'm going with, but that doesn't mean I won't do it. The dark side.
They'd understand.
Okay, so nothing to discuss about The Force Awakens or Rogue One this week, but The Last Jedi, right. We need to say we're going to discuss Last Jedi and then Han Solo. So from this point on, there are potential spoilers. I don't know how much of this is true, and I would hate for you to wander into spoilers if that's not the sort of thing you're into. So for the rest of this episode, it's going to be spoilery, potentially. So if you want to jump off now, we fully understand, but you have been warned. So Last Jedi talk. Bob Iger, not Bog Iber, as I almost called him, Bob Iger confirms that Carrie will not be digitally altered in The Last Jedi, and that her role is being left untouched in that film. I'm not sure what his comments mean for episode 9, though.
Okay.
Because this is him reiterating last week. I think Lisa sometimes does the Twitter for Talk Star Wars for me.
Right.
And she put out a story about this story about Bob Iger clarifying the points about Carrie, and it seemed to be very Last Jedi centric.
Yep.
So I still don't know where we stand for episode 9, because didn't we hear just after she passed away that they were talking to the family about the rights to her likeness? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which they would have given. I would have thought they would have said she would have wanted to be in every Star Wars film. You do what you want to do. Personally, that's what I think they would have said. But isn't this really good news? Because if they're not changing her role or her image in 8, then doesn't that bode well for 9? I mean, they're not just going to say, "Oh, she's not in 9 at all." We're not going to. If they were telling you what was going to happen to her, they'd have to do it in 8.
That does depend, though, Steve. I mean, let's throw a couple of scenarios out there, right?
All right.
What if her role in episode 8 in The Last Jedi remains untouched because it was always planned that she was going to die in that film?
Well, that's fine. Then that's absolutely fine. I like that idea too, because then they're not altering anything because of her death in real life.
Yeah.
And I like that idea. If that's what they had planned, fine. But if she survives 8 and they had planned for her to be in 9, then this bodes well for a CGI Carrie, doesn't it?
Yeah, see.
Possibly. There are ways to make it work narratively.
Yeah, chuck money at it, get the CGI right.
No, you're talking logistically. I'm talking about.
Oh.
I'm talking about just the physical, the technical. There are ways of making it work in the story. That's what I mean.
Yes. Yeah, well, they will already have had ideas for 9 with her in it. They've only got to carry on doing them.
Well, she was definitely.
We need approach them differently, slightly, maybe.
I always
Does
circle
anyone
back
look to see what that girl's doing that played her for one day? She had one day of shooting. I watched the documentary.
Oh yeah,
on it.
no, she's dead keen to do more. She was saying.
But has she gone sort of off in secret in recently?
I don't know.
No.
I mean, they're not in production on 9 yet, and if they are, they've got a long time to sort out anything they need to do with Leia.
What were his exact words?
I don't know what his exact. It was on a tweet. If you look up Ben Fritz,
I'm just looking it up.
Ben Fritz, I think, from
USA Today,
Wall Street Journal. He had,
okay.
He had
I'll read
a
USA,
bunch
USA
of.
Today's got quotes as well.
He had a bunch of tweets. It was just sort of reiterating that they weren't going to do anything with Carrie digitally, and that,
okay. So here we go. So Carrie appears throughout 8. We're not changing 8 to deal with her passing. Her performance remains as it is in 8.
Yeah.
And Rogue One, we had some digital characters. We're not doing that with Carrie. That's kind of. I was sort of hoping that there was a wording that would be open to interpretation about the performance is still there.
Yeah.
But they could, like you've said about spreading it out over 2 films.
Yes.
Because the performance doesn't change then. It just, the storyline just changes around it.
Yeah.
Because they don't need any additional stuff from her to make that work.
I may have read into the way you read that then, but I read it when you said we're not going to change any of the story or to deal with her passing in 8, but we will do in 9.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
This is the thing. This is why I put. I'm not sure what that indicates about her role in 9.
Yeah.
We know if you go back to what she said at Celebration last year, we know she was going to film for 9, but we don't know if she was going to film as Leia or Leia's Force Ghost or what.
Yeah. And this is why I think they've made a misstep by categorically writing off the digital thing. At this stage, because I realise that it's very soon after the fact, and it's obviously still quite fresh, and a lot of people are very upset by it, and I do get it. But people would be more upset about recasting.
Oh, I definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, and by saying it's definitely not happening, digital, they've boxed themselves into a corner where that's one of the only options they've got left.
Have they said categorically no to digital then?
Yes.
Early on they did.
Yeah.
Just after she passed. But now the wording in that quote from Bob Iger seems to me, and I might be reading too much into this, seems to contain that guarantee to The Last Jedi.
That much I agree with, yeah.
So
that much I agree with. I think you're absolutely right. I think she does say, I think that's clear enough that it's time boxed.
And just to clarify my position on this before we move on, I just want to be perfectly clear. All I'm saying is that it leaves Princess Leia or General Leia's part in Episode 9 open to me. I don't know what to think about
unplanned.
it. I'm not saying what I'd prefer, but I just think it's
Here's the Star Wars. So from StarWars.com, this is on January 13th. We don't normally respond to fan or press speculation, but there is a rumor circulating that we'd like to address. We want to assure our fans that Lucasfilm has no plans to digitally recreate Carrie Fisher's performance as Princess or General Leia Organa. So no plans. So at this, so that basically means it's not explicitly stated. That it's not no plans at this stage is what they're saying. So on January 13th, there are no plans. Now, if they come later on to Episode 9 and realize, actually, you know what, we need to do some. I think people will be a little bit more forgiving.
Yeah, and obviously to just pass then, out of respect for the family, they would have said no plans.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So why not?
Because
the family might have gone, no, do it.
This might be I'm being a bit flippant, but the alternative, the other side of that coin, like saying we have no plans, the other side of that coin is saying, right, CGI then? There was no way on earth that anybody at Lucasfilm thought like that, and there's certainly no way that anyone would expect them to react like that.
Yeah, indeed.
So right now, I think that I don't know how reassured I am that Carrie won't be, neither Carrie nor her performance will be altered in any way in The Last Jedi. I don't know how much to be reassured by that. Because,
I mean, if they haven't got plans, they should do what everyone does and send down a rebel force to steal them.
Well done. No, I think that to me it says the the Leia character's fate is now up for debate.
Up for debate, yeah.
And or you've got this horrible spectre of potential recasting for 9.
Oh no!
And to me right now, it seems so uncertain. I'm kind of glad that The Last Jedi is going to make it to screens without being messed around with, but I am concerned about what this means for the character of Leia, and by extension, Carrie's legacy. But,
yeah, I honestly, I can't imagine them doing that. And if they did, I would seriously think about whether I wanted to go and see it. In 9, if it was confirmed before it was released, I just wouldn't. I don't know. It would make me feel very weird.
Recasting.
If it was recast, yeah.
I guess we'll have to see. I mean,
yeah.
I heard someone. I want to say it was Ash at the Sky Hoppers saying, or it might have been Alexandra, that they have on the show from time to time, that Leia could have a part in 9 as a disembodied voice. I don't think I should attribute that to anyone on that show, because I might be wrong, but I'm certain I've heard somebody saying that Leia's part in 9 could be a disembodied voice if something happens to Leia in The Last Jedi, and then you don't have to worry about recasting or recreating Carrie. All you have to be able to do is sample audio from other areas of the saga.
Yeah.
Or any other film she was in.
Yeah.
Or you could have a sort of a voice alike like they did for Tarkin.
Yeah.
You could. And actually maybe you'd want to at that point.
Yeah.
Tarkin's took very old, very long time ago.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get away with a bit of, artistic license. With Carrie Fisher, she's just passed. People are going to, that doesn't sound like her.
Yeah.
It'd have to be so accurate.
I'm not sure she even sounded like the Leia we remembered in The Force Awakens, did she? So even if they are close to what she sounded like in The Force Awakens, it won't be what we think we remember, or what we think we recognise as Leia, because we're used to Leia from the previous movies. Oh, it's just a mess, isn't it? It's just, and it's one of those things where it's still, at the moment, to me, it's still a raw nerve, this whole thing.
Yeah.
And
Indeed.
I'm so desperate for them to get so much right, and I just think that, they're roller skating through a minefield here, and they don't really stand a chance in hell.
No,
because
they're going to upset somebody no matter what they do. That's the thing to remember.
Something's going to foul. It's not just whether or not you upset me because of my investment or my subjective opinion. Something's going to foul somewhere.
Right.
And, you got to service Carrie's legacy. You got to do justice by Carrie's legacy, and her family, the people that have survived her, need to be treated with respect. But then you've got to deal with the character of Leia, because that character deserves respect. That needs to be treated well.
Yep.
And then you've got the franchise that needs to be serviced as well. You can't have a hole in the franchise. I don't know. There's so much potential for this to go wrong, and it's a test now for Lucasfilm and for Disney. To see how well they manage this. And I wish them nothing but luck. All right, let's move on from that, because it's a very uncomfortable subject, I think. Let's get to this exciting thing. So do you remember last year we were talking about a tree? It was on the soundstage with the Millennium Falcon, and it was near some sort of academy or some sort of temple or something. Well, MakingStarWars.net had a story this week where they said that tree, that they've seen, Jason at Making Star Wars have seen images of that tree on fire.
Okay.
And he had a really interesting quote, actually, which I didn't put in the show notes, but in his article he said, if there is a metal band in the Star Wars galaxy, this image would be on their T-shirt. Yeah. So nice. It's a very evocative image. And as I was reading through his article and trying to take all the information in, the first thing I thought was that's a terrifying force vision that someone's having. Yeah. That they're seeing this tree aflame.
Yeah.
What does it say to you Does it say that? Is it? Do you think it fits into that Force Vision mold?
Wasn't it already when we saw the first image of that tree?
Kind of looked dead. Didn't it?
It was burnt anyway, wasn't it? I remember it as it.
Yeah, it was dishevelled, kind of this gnarly old sort of petrified thing. It wasn't like this green. It didn't look like it was alive.
I've just dropped something into the side notes. Is that the tree on the right there next to Ray? Obviously, there's an image of Ray and an image of the tree, but that's the tree we're talking about, isn't it?
That's the one, mate. Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
So the images that Jason has seen is that on fire.
Okay.
There are some ties to, I think it's Shattered Empire, a book that features
I just read that.
Poe Dameron's parents, right? So
yes,
at the end, Luke gives his parents a force tree to plant on Yavin.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
So has this got? Could this be? I mean, that image there looks like it's on Arc 2 to me, but could this be on Yavin?
That particular one looks like Arc 2, yeah.
Mm.
But there could also be, I don't know, this might not be the tree doing the rounds. This might be a different one.
Yeah.
Because in fact, I think that's part of the, I think that's from episode 7.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I think so. Don't quote me, but I think so. It looks like it's the right sort of colour palette and stuff.
Yeah. But they did, when they shot in Greenham Common for the Rebel base on Takodana. Was it Takodana where they had the Rebel base?
No, that was Maz's Castle. That was on. Oh, I read this the other day.
Dakar, right?
That's the one.
Yeah, when they were on Dakar, it was Greenham Common, and so they painted in.
Yeah.
They painted out the city around Greenham Common, and they put in this beautiful lush forest and made it look more like Yavin. So they could be doing digital set extensions around this location, and it could end up looking like the rolling hills of Guatemala with rainforest everywhere, for all we know.
Yeah, sure.
But I would like those two trees to be connected, because it's kind of an odd thing to have pop up in a book and then be at the centre of one of these movies.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Mm. But the other thing is, it could be more practical, and it could just be that the tree is actually on fire because there's an invasion,
laser fire,
warfare.
Although the tree does look too ominous and imposing to be anything less than a function in the film.
Yeah. Something like you'd imagine Yoda being around in
Empire,
isn't it?
Yeah, like go in here and have a force vision and scare yourself beepless.
Yeah, beepless. Yeah. Well done. Thanks for beeping yourself. Okay, so
beepless it will be.
Moving on from the Force Tree, and we just mentioned briefly a ground battle. So this came out. We were talking about these guerrilla walkers before we started recording tonight. These new AT-ATs for the First Order that have a resemblance to a huge mechanical gorilla with this unusual sort of silhouette with
they sound awesome,
the
don't
back
they?
end being lower. It's great. Did you see over on Making Star Wars, they had Lumberjack Nick, who does a lot of their concept artwork, who does little cartoons and things of designs.
Oh, where they're loading the stormtroopers on it?
No, it was a side elevation of the head from descriptions they've been given. It looks stunning.
It looks very weird, doesn't it?
But the thing that description and the concept of those walkers to me was mouth-watering. But what got me more was I hadn't even considered that there might be a huge ground battle in Last Jedi.
Yeah, makes sense, doesn't it?
That's really exciting. So there's got to be a space battle as well, because these are staples in Star Wars movies, aren't they?
They're not staples in the second one in the trilogy necessarily, though. So you may get them spaced out. So you may get a big space battle in episode 9 and get the ground battle in episodes. You
had Hoth in Empire, and you had the Falcon sort of evading capture from the Empire, which is kind of like space. I mean, it's not really, and in Attack of the Clones, you had the ground assault on Geonosis, but we didn't really get much in space in Attack of the Clones, did we? Really? I don't think there was.
And then it happened with Nobs on in episode 3.
Obi-Wan chasing Jango Fett was the only one you really got, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, another thing for an asteroid field. So maybe this film, being the second chapter, will have an asteroid chasing it. I hope they don't do that.
No, I'd love asteroid chases, but please don't do that.
Don't retread. Rob, what do you think of that art from Lumberjack Nick?
Oh, it looks pretty cool.
It looks good, right?
Yeah, very cool.
There's all kinds of mean, that thing.
Yeah, it looks nasty. Nasty piece of work.
It's a lot larger as well than I think Jason did a little doodle and he had the two things next to each other.
Have you seen the concept art for the stormtroopers being loaded on one?
No, where is that?
I'll dig it out and I'll send it. I'll put it in the side chat. Carry on as normal. I'll dig
all
it
right,
out.
while you do that, so we've got a little bit of casting news for The Last Jedi, which came out of nowhere. Justin Theroux is going to be in The Last Jedi as a slicer.
Yes.
So a slicer is a hacker, right, Rob?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I love Justin Theroux.
Tell you what, I'm not familiar with his work, if I'm honest, but I noticed something about him that I thought was really interesting.
Go.
You know George Eads? He's in CSI. He's the Texan one. He plays Nick.
Let me have a look. I don't know him. I've never heard of him.
You might have seen him pop up in something else, perhaps. But to me, the first time I saw a picture when it said new casting for episode 8, it's not a fantastic. It's not like a perfect likeness, but it is. That was my first thought. Was like, wow, he's really. They're quite similar.
It really is, isn't he? Yeah, I've just got a picture of him up. That is quite uncanny.
Yeah, I just found that interesting. That's all. It's just a quick aside. Yeah, he's much like is it Michael K. Williams who was announced last time we spoke about casting?
Michael Kenneth Williams. Yeah, from
that's
The Wire.
it. Yeah. Yep. What's it called? Yeah, like that. I'm not familiar with their work, but all I've seen in terms of reaction is positive, so that's encouraging.
Yeah, well, Justin Theroux, try and ignore his role in Charlie's Angels.
Okay.
But think about the writing work that he did on Iron Man 2. All of Justin Hammer's dialogue in that scene with the armor was Justin Theroux just like making it up extemporaneously on set.
Yeah. And
feeding the lines to, who is it that played Hammer? I can't think of the guy's name. I really like him too.
Oh, I have to look it up. I don't know.
Well, he had a little earwig in, and so Justin Theroux was just like making this stuff up and feeding the lines to him. He was also in The Girl on a Train last year.
Yeah, according to this, he's in American Psycho briefly as well.
Yeah, but the thing I'm most familiar with him from is The Leftovers, the TV show, which is pretty good actually, even though it didn't start out great.
Hammer. So I'm still looking.
Somebody else today has come out and said they're doing a cameo in Star Wars, but they've given too much away and said they're not playing a stormtrooper. Who's that?
Oh,
Gary Barlow.
Gary Barlow.
Gary Barlow. Thank you. I knew it was someone.
Well, the thing to keep in mind with him is he's a musician, and Star Wars is not short of a few places where music's played.
So is he going to play Max Rebo?
I'm up for that. He plays keyboards.
Yeah.
Why not?
Gary Barlow as Max Rebo. There was a point in the 90s where he had the same sort of physique as Max Rebo as
well. Shots fired.
Did you find out who played Hammer?
Hammer or Emma's?
No, Hammer. Justin Hammer. In Iron Man 2.
In Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't looking at that. I was looking at Charlie's Angels because I got confused.
Sam Rockwell.
Oh, Sam Rockwell. Oh, he's great.
How could I forget that guy's name? I love
He's
that
a genius.
Yeah. He is fantastic. So,
yeah, from Galaxy Quest.
That's him. Yeah, Justin Theroux is a massive bonus for this movie. I'm really pleased that he's involved. He's a great actor.
Prepare to get your lips salivated because I'm just about to drop a gorgeous image into the side chat here. Have a look at that AT-AT.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you...
Yes, I have seen that. Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I think
that's similar. That's pretty much a normal Star one, isn't it?
A lot bigger.
It's a lot bigger, yeah.
Yeah.
Much bigger. Because when you were young, I always thought they were huge, but they're not. They're tiny.
Yeah.
They really are. The cockpit of a normal AT-AT is just about big enough for two people with one person standing in the middle.
Yeah, so I thought 3 or 4 people behind you. Like two in the seats and then one or two behind. And it looks pretty smart.
That is humongousoid, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a great image, that is. And okay. The one behind him seems to be sniffing. Maybe he's just making friends. Okay. So the last thing on The Last Jedi, two images were seen at CinemaCon showing Rey with a lightsaber.
Okay.
Just two shots in a Disney sizzle reel.
Yeah.
Which got a lot of people. I think it came from Jermaine Lucia at IO9.
Okay.
He tweeted out about it, said he's just seen his first glimpse of episode 8.
Yeah.
Just those two shots. Really, really keen. I started thinking, if they're already leaking bits and pieces like that at CinemaCon,
Celebration's got to be.
Celebration will have more, but I'm starting to think that the trailer might come out before Celebration at this rate.
I think that would be unlikely. Surely they're going to save something back for Celebration.
Yeah, but that to me, it kind of makes sense, though, Rob, because why should I see it? Because I'm going to Celebration. Why should I see the trailer and you not?
Because F the UK. But then that's true of, you guys got a slightly more interesting Rogue One experience than people who didn't go.
We did, but we didn't see the trailer. We saw a sizzle reel and we saw a little. It didn't even get released as a trailer. It was just like a tone poem of clips.
Mm-hmm.
But the trailer, there was a trailer already out, right?
Yeah.
When we went, and I just think that it would make sense to put a trailer out so that everyone gets to see it and everyone's starting to talk about it. And then when we get there, we can see some behind the scenes stuff. We can see a sizzle. We can see stuff that's exclusive to the event. Like you remember the Rogue One trailer where it was all screaming and static over the radio?
Yeah.
That's never been released. That sort of thing there. But keep the theatrical trailers as a thing for the entire community, and let's not exclude anyone just because they can't go, or they couldn't get tickets, or they couldn't get into the hall.
No, but we got, like, I didn't go to Celebration, and I didn't go to Celebration Orlando last year, but we still got the trailer at the same time as everybody else. We had to just switch over to the YouTube channel. Yeah.
I think it did it automatically.
There's no obstacle. In my mind, at least, there's no obstacle to showing that stuff at the same time. That's fine. I don't see a problem with it.
Okay. Well, if you're happy, then I'm happy. But I just want to see it now. Is all. I don't want to have to wait 2 weeks.
Now we come to the crux of the reality. This is what you really want to say.
Give it
read between the lines.
Give it me. Give it me, Lucasfilm. Right. Let's wrap up on a couple of bits from the Han Solo movie. So, we got some of this stuff last week, just as we were wrapping up, and we were discussing it, I think, briefly at the end of last week's show, Rob. But Steve, I thought I'd stick it back in here just for your
interesting.
benefit. The Han Solo movie is going to span a 6-year period. It's going to cover his life from the ages of 18 to the age of 24.
So roughly 9 years before A New Hope.
Well, it depends, because I think Lucas always saw Han as being 28. So really, this would put us 4 years.
Oh, he was really 35, wasn't he, when he wrote? Yeah, I'm thinking of his real age, aren't I?
Yeah. He was 35 at the time, but Han
so then
was
just
28.
one film then, not a.
That's what it looks like.
No scope for. Yeah. Okay.
Unless they are going to tell stories. See, one of the things I think last week, Rob, you and I, we were chatting about it, weren't we? And we said it seems to make sense that perhaps the cold open is an 18-year-old Han doing something.
Yeah.
Like a James Bond movie or an Indiana Jones movie always starts with the end of the last
something
adventure.
Different. Yeah, like like Spectre at the Day of the Dead festival. And
yes, exactly.
Things like that. Yeah.
So it would be. I'm not sure that they would waste the opportunity for this story in a cold open, but a cold open of Han helping Chewie that he's just met, helping him escape, and they jump on the Falcon, and that's how you get. That's how Han meets Chewie, and they get the Falcon, they steal it, and they're off. And then we come straight back into the film proper, and it's 24-year-old Han and Chewie on the next mission, maybe with Lando. And so, the film covers those years.
But very quickly.
But it's thrown away in the cold open.
Yeah, and I like that idea, because I don't want to be like, I'm getting into this. 2 years have passed. What happened then?
And I really don't want that. 2 years later on screen. Ugh.
No. No, or even implied, and you have to figure it out yourself. I want to know what happened.
It would feel
I don't mind
disjointed.
losing it at the beginning, but I don't want to lose it at the end. That's cool though.
Are we all on board with that then? Is that a unanimous thing?
Yeah,
I'm fine with the 6-year gap. Yeah, as long as they
do it the right way.
Yeah, exactly. As long as it's not what I don't want is for them to jump back and forth between timelines. That would be really annoying. Especially as we're only going to get one Han Solo.
Or they could do proper deal with physics the right way. They take off to go somewhere 6,000 light years away.
Oh, come off it. There's no way.
And then they go, crikey, we're not there yet. It's been 6 years. So you ain't missed anything. They've just been sitting there playing with that stupid chessboard.
There's the old Steve.
And then they land.
There's the old Steve. Right. He's back. I think, Rob, you mentioned last week that Rogue One kind of introduced the storytelling framework for these standalone films. And it kind of makes sense that Han Solo would slot into that. So your cold open would be set in one time frame, and then you'd have your title card, and then you're into the movie proper.
Yeah.
And that's the Rogue One. That's a Star Wars story structure for telling these tales. So
I think that's reasonable.
That would work for me.
Yeah.
Okay, next piece of Han Solo news. Woody Harrelson's character is a character named Beckett, who is a Han Solo mentor.
Okay.
So I speculated last week, I think I did it on the Kessel Run, the daily podcast for the VIPs, that maybe this name is a family name.
Okay.
Because Bob Iger did say we're going to find out how Han gets his name, which is the next point on the show notes.
Yeah.
And I wondered whether or not Han's family name was Beckett, and maybe Woody's playing an older brother, or maybe even his father.
That's interesting.
And the whole thing with Han becoming Han Solo is him getting away from the family or getting away from this organisation in some way.
That's a good shout.
Yeah, protection.
Yeah, so it could be Han Beckett. But I think it's more than likely, like you see, let's jump to the next point here because they kind of complement each other, these. We will learn how Han met Chewie, how he found, interesting use of language, found the Falcon, and how he got his name. These are direct quotes from Bob Iger. So we're going to find out how Han got his name. So if we take that literally, if Han Solo's name wasn't actually Han Solo, if it was Han Beckett, and he adopted the name Solo to distance himself, that's one thing. But the way I read that initially was that got his name was really a reputation. How Han Solo got its reputation as hotshot pilot.
Well, he goes off on his own, solo.
That's another very valid read of that whole thing, right?
Yeah. Well, the other thing to keep in mind as well is there's another interpretation of how he got his name, which is to say his reputation as the guy who drops his Imperial cargo at the first sign of an Imperial ship.
Yes, that isn't. Yeah, so kind of how he got his sentence, how he got his bounty, how he got that price on his head.
How he got his kind of his reputation as unreliable, as an unreliable smuggler. Basically,
that's a really good point, actually, Rob.
It's a lot to fit in.
It is. It is, unless you throw away these first 2 points, how Han met Chewie and found the Falcon. If you throw that away in the cold open, like the Lamu sequence in Rogue One, if you throw all that stuff away, wouldn't it? Well, it only really needs to be as long as the Lamu section of Rogue One.
Yeah, I suppose.
So that's plenty long enough because we're introduced to Rey, to Jin, her family, Krennic. The concept of them being on the run, the concept of them having a connection to Saw Gerrera.
Yeah.
The girl's obviously been, they cover a lot in that very, very fast few moments opening of the movie. So I could very much see the opening of the Han Solo movie being, this frantic handheld sprint down a corridor of 18-year-old Han Solo, a wounded Wookiee that he's just rescued, as they jump into the first ship they find, kind of like Finn and Rey in The Force Awakens, where they go, let's take the garbage. They jump on that thing and then they're gone. Yeah. And that's how we meet our heroes, is they're on the run from something, they're in trouble, the odds are stacked against them, their escape is messy and it was barely successful. I would love that stuff.
Yeah.
And then we meet them at the start of the next mission, and you know already they've got a shorthand. We've got a shorthand with them. We've got an understanding of how they operate, how they do things. And we see them right back in the mess again.
Yeah.
To still Kyle's paraphrasing of Maz from last week. That would work for me. And it would be amazing if these holy grails of Han Solo's story, like meeting Chewie, getting the Falcon, doing a Kessel Run, all that stuff, if that's all just tossed away in the opening few minutes of this film, as if to say, we're not doing any of that. This is all of those things you're interested in. We've got another story to tell you. That would get 2 thumbs up from me straight away.
Yeah, that's cool. It's all sounding very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, very exciting.
It's nothing, it's not. This is not a story where we're just like, oh, we've heard this before. This all sounds very, it's all. There's a lot of up in the air.
Yeah, yeah,
which is nice.
And I think Bob Iger's quite clever with the way he uses this sort of verbiage, interesting verbiage, like how he found the Falcon.
Yeah,
not how he ended up the owner of the Falcon, or how he found the Falcon is very interesting, and how he got his name is very interesting.
And also, it's not necessarily, again, just finding the Falcon doesn't mean he leaves with it.
No, that's right.
Yeah, because it could be that he finds it, and then Lando goes, "Oh, I like this. I'm having this."
Yeah,
and Han goes, "Oh, that you enjoy it while it lasts, mate, or whatever."
Yeah, I can't wait to see those two bouncing off each other.
Yeah, well, they're both top notch, so that'll be good fun.
Very interesting. And we've got another actor in the mix as well this week. Actor Ian Kenny, who I could not remember his name for the life of me this morning when I did the Kessel Run for the V's. Sing Street star or actor Ian Kenny joins the cast of Han Solo. No more details on who he's playing or what the role is. I just wondered if he'd be a part of this gang that Han might be caught up with. If Woody Harrelson is kind of like this space Fagin, is he going to be one of his orphans?
Yeah,
I like the idea that that's kind of a theme they're playing off of. Do you know anything about this guy? Have you seen him before?
Let me just look up his headshot.
He hasn't done an awful lot.
Okay, Ian Kenny. Sing Street.
Sing Street, Mark?
Sing Street was a film he was in last year. It looks a bit like...
What, is he a British actor?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's helpful. He hasn't got a headshot.
Hasn't got a head.
Oh, here we go. Which one is he? Is he the sort of brunette one?
If you go to our site, it's on the homepage there. He's in the header image, so you'll be able to see him on there.
All right, cool.
I'll
do that.
I'm getting the feeling that Sing Street is a little bit like the Football Factory or Green Street, one of those kind of.
Okay. Okay. It's not the one I was looking at.
He looked like a skinhead in the screenshot I saw him in.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah,
interesting casting. Very young guy, so I could see him being a part of an Oliver Twist style gang. I like the idea that would be an element in this film.
Yeah.
But we haven't heard anything to that effect yet. But
no, nice little tidbits.
Yes, some pretty cool stuff. So that's it for Star Wars news this week. That was the spoilery stuff. So there's some plenty of interesting bits and pieces in there. This Han Solo movie, I'm getting very excited about, and it's a little over a year away.
Yeah,
wow, that is amazing. Next May.
Die Wochen flugen by.
Hopefully. But who knows? Right. Let's wrap this thing up then. So thanks for listening to Talk Star Wars again this week, guys. And thank you, Rob. Thank you, Steve. Welcome back, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Your time away, you have been greatly missed, and it's good that you come back firing on all cylinders, and apparently some cylinders that you borrowed from somebody else.
You've been to Toshi Station.
He has, and he got 10% off with Connor's code.
In true Blackadder style, always keep them hungry. Or is that Bob? I think it's Bob.
Bob.
Funny name for a girl, isn't it?
Don't forget, you can leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and take advantage of the Ron Burgundy guarantee. So whatever you're writing a 5-star review, I'll read it as long as it's clean. So whatever you want to promote, do it there. You can send us voicemail and email to talkstarsInfo@gmail.com. It's talkstars, INFO. Or you can reach out to reach out to us. Oh, goodness me, I'm so tired. You can reach out to us on one of our many. I'm not even going to bother cutting that out. You can reach out to us on one of our many social channels, such as Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and more. We can be found everywhere. Guys, with that said, where can people find you on Tinterwebs?
Well, I'm on Wild About Nature on YouTube and Wild About Nature on Twitter, or Stephen_Ware at Stephen_Ware.
Lovely job. Thank you, mate. Rob?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RobWadeVision, and I'm available at emotionally14.com, where you can get on board with a number of different fun things that we do.
Excellent.
Lovely jubbly.
You'll find Paul at moviescore.com and at moviescore.
Moviescore News.
Oh, sorry, Moviescore News. Goodness me. .com and at Moviescore News on Twitter. Thank you, Rob. You can find me at talkstarwars.org, and I am talking Star Wars on Twitter. See how I'm just not on it.
No, you're at Talk Star
You
Wars.
need to get yourself to bed, mate.
What's wrong with you?
I know that last one I was hamming up, but clearly I'm a thesp and I got away with it. You can find me at talkstarwars.co.uk, and I'm on Twitter at talkstarwars. You are going to hear a nice, lovely little outro that's dedicated to the Commonwealth, and find everything they do there. We will see you guys again. Are we back next week, or is it Celebration? No, we are back next week. The last one before Celebration. Oh, it's getting exciting. Right, see you next week, everybody.
See you later, guys.
Bye-bye.
Talk Star Wars is a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Find us at StarWarsCommonwealth.com alongside
the Tumbling Saber Podcast,
the Generation X-Wing Podcast,
the TSW Roundtable,
the Skyhoppers Podcast,
and the Nerd Room Podcast.
Head to StarWarsCommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world.
It's a wrap! It's a wrap.
Let's talk about Loot Crate. Are you on a quest for epic gear, housewares, and collectibles? Loot Crate offers an epic range of pop culture items for less than $20 per month. Whether you're shopping for the geek in your life or you are that geek, Loot Crate is the best surprise you know is coming. Every month there's a different theme and new and exclusive items you can only get with Loot Crate. Treat yourself every month, or give the gift of geeking out to a friend or a loved one. You have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cutoff happens, that's it, it's over. Make sure to head to lootcrate.com/TalkStarWars and enter the code TalkStarWars to save $3 off your new subscription today.
Don't mention the war.
I mean, CEOs, I get the impression, get quite a few emails a day as well.
Yeah, but
so
we're not a big company. We're only 150 staff.
That's quite a lot, though.
I like the way you redact your emails so neatly.
It's very nicely done.
You're like a 4-year-old CIA operative.
What bit? What's redact?
All the little
blackouts.
They're not neat black boxes, just like little scribbles, as if you've got tongue sticking out one side of your mouth. It's good.
Yeah, it is like reading a UFO evidence.
Is that what
email, isn't it?
It is,
I should have just blacked the whole thing out and left the word just dire consequence.
Daddy says I'm a good agent. That's right, you are, champ.
Right, let's get into this then, shall we? And get this one in the books. Right, ready, steady, go. Hello everyone, welcome back to Talk Star Wars. I'm Mark. Let's talk about Loot Crate. Are you on a quest for epic gear, housewares and collectibles? Loot Crate offers an epic range of pop culture items for less than $20 per month. Whether you're shopping for the geek in your life or you are that geek, Loot Crate is the best surprise you know is coming. Every month there's a different theme and new and exclusive items that you can only get with Loot Crate. Treat yourself every month, or give the gift of geeking out to a friend or a loved one. You have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cutoff happens, that's it, it's over. Make sure to head to lootcrate.com/TalkStarWars and enter the code TalkStarWars and save $3 off your new subscription today.